on their views on the state of the merger, what's gone well, what's not gone well, and any suggestions you all have to make changes or to applaud anything that exists in the current status of the merger. So we'll start with, my name is Jones, Earl Jones. I'm co-chair here. I'm going to pass the mic to my colleague co-chair, and we're going to introduce ourselves.
Jason Nemus. I am a state representative. Starts at Linden and it goes into Oldham County and Shelby County, but the heart of my district, where the majority of the residents are, is Middletown.
Good evening. I'm Mayor Bonnie Jung from the city of Douglas Hills. I'm representing Jefferson County League of Cities, and I want to thank in this big section here and over here all of the mayors that have come tonight from their cities.
I'm Senator Mike Nemus from Bullock County, and I have some of Southern Jefferson, Fairdale Valley Station, Fern Creek, Okolona.
Thank you. I'm Councilwoman Cindy Fowler. My district is District 14th in PRP and Valley Station, and I'm appointed by the President of the Council.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann Butler. I'm a former councilwoman, and I am the mayor's designee on this committee.
Shelby Somerville. I do government affairs for Greater Louisville, Inc., which is the Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening. I'm Ken Fleming. I used to be a councilman for many, many years and now a state representative in the northeast part of Jefferson County, and I also represent part of Oldham County.
Okay, so the way we've been doing things is I'm going to call on someone. I'm going to tell the person who's on deck as well and ask them to come forward and just be ready, so we won't waste any time. You do have 3 minutes. I'll give you an extra 30 seconds if you're, if you need it, but then it will be cut off. If there's time at the end, we'll discuss whether we can continue the discussion. But just to be respectful to everyone, we have a number of speakers here tonight. We will be taking the clock. We're going to start with Ann Ramser, and I apologize. My last name is Nemus, which everybody bludgeons. So if I mess yours up, my apologies. Start with Ann Ramser, and then we're going to come second with Bob Stoneham. Ann, you're up, and Bob, you're on deck.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Since merger, services in the Urban Service District have decreased. The Urban Service District previously had sidewalk service and streetlights through the extra taxes paid by Urban Service District residents. Now sidewalk issues are through the council members' neighborhood development fund. My neighborhood association is paying the monthly utility bills for streetlights recently installed. Whereas the real property tax rate countywide decreased last year, the real property tax rate for the Urban Service District increased. The value of my property increased, but the Urban Service District tax rate also increased. All 26 council members decide how money collected from Urban Service District is spent, despite not one council member's district being entirely composed of Urban Service District residents. For example, the council person in District 19 decides how Urban Service District money is spent, and District 19 does not have any Urban Service District residents. This is undemocratic. Where else does this happen? Why don't we put a Metro Council member in a voting position on the board of each of the 80-plus suburban cities? The USD residents can decide which council member sits on the council of the 80-plus suburban cities. Each council member receives a set amount of neighborhood development funds, despite some council members having many constituents living in suburban cities. Those suburban city residents pay some taxes to those suburban cities rather than Metro Louisville. I believe that Louisvillians living in a suburban city should not directly benefit from neighborhood development funds. Numerous times I've tried to research the budget for the Urban Service District, but all I see are line items within the total budget. I cannot find the total income from taxes for Urban Service District residents and expenditures for those residents. Transparency is non-existent for Urban Service District residents. One of the main reasons that merger passed on the third attempt was based on the assumption of no new suburban cities. That has now changed, and the residents did not have a vote on that change. Lexington consolidated and brought everyone together. Louisville would be much further along had we consolidated. As an urban service district resident, I did not see any benefit from merger. The urban service district has gone downhill since merger. People are moving out of the urban service district as shown by the latest census and redistricting. As people move out, less people, or people with less means, are left to fight for the area, meaning council members can easily put undesirable business in the urban service district. I believe the action this committee take will further harm urban service district residents because urban service district residents are too small in number to have an impact. As we all know that merger will not be undone, I request to eliminate the urban service district. Streetlights can be paid from the tourism budget as streetlights benefit tourism. I will contract directly for garbage service and pay a percentage for fire service. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Ramser. A proposal that you had was to eliminate USD, is that what I heard? Yes. Okay, thank you. Mr. Stoneham, you're up, and Jeff Cavalcanti, you're on deck.
Good evening. I'm Mayor Stoneham, City of Worthington Hills. It is my honor on the behalf of the property owners of the City of Worthington Hills to share some information. There's maps that I was going to hand out. Number one, the June 26, 2018 National Weather Map shows the path of the F1 tornado. The City of Worthington Hills residents, including myself, had to pay for removal of the damaged trees and limbs which fell during the weather event. I was road commissioner at the time. I made several calls to Metro Councilman Glenn Stuckel to try and have Metro Public Works provide COWH, which is the City of Worthington Hills, with a wood chipper, but my request was denied. I protested on the grounds our property owners pay Jefferson County property taxes, but my pleas were rejected on the grounds COWH is a suburban city. The second map, which depletes the boundary line between City of Worthington Hills and Metro Louisville, Jefferson County, shows 3 streets which have no other means to travel other than via streets required to be maintained by City of Worthington Hills. As road commissioner, I contacted Councilman Scott Reed concerning a prorated share for paving Middlesex Drive based on the 76 homes in Willow Cove, which is a HOA out there, and the 15 homes on Middlesex Drive from Northumberland, from Middlesex to Northumberland. And again, my request was rejected on the grounds COWH is a suburban city. The 2 maps I had included in this presentation are a summary and the short summary of each are respectively submitted as past and future expenses COWH has in the past and will experience in the future. And we have other expenses. One of them is we're in Division 8 police area, and that is a really short-staffed area for the size of the territory. We actually pay a contractor who are LMPD off-duty officers. They do a great job, but the problem is when they're on duty with us, they're still on duty with LMPD, and they have to follow the rules. And we've had incidents out there where they could have done something, but because of the SOPs that LMPD has in place, they were unable to do so. So again, we're not only not getting the service of the LMPD by the staff, but we're also, when we do pay our contractors, which are off-duty LMPD officers, they're not able to do the job that we expect them to do.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for you, but I want to note that you've asked if you could submit something for the record, and the answer to that is yes. If you want to stick around, I'll make sure that you get the actual website, and it's on the flyer. I don't have a flyer with me, but it's on the flyer.
I'll pick one up on that.
Okay, and so what we would ask you to do is that you would submit that in that way, so therefore it's an official part of the record.
Okay.
And if you have any cover letter you'd like to submit, I think you read from that would be great. I do want to have a clarifying question for you. Mm-hmm. So you're Worthington Hills, which is on the between Murphy Lane and the county line, right?
That's correct.
And you guys are Louisville taxpayers.
We we pay Jefferson County tax. We do not pay Louisville tax.
Okay, you don't pay the
We pay a
USD.
city tax, we pay the City of Worthington Hills tax, and they also pay premium insurance tax. That is the only two revenue streams we have other than some other odds and ends.
Understood.
And as such, we are limited on what our revenue stream
You're
is.
not a suburban city that has a police department, correct?
No, we do not have a.
And so Louisville Metro is your police department, but
Right,
it's,
Division 8.
you feel like they don't provide enough services, so you actually have to, the taxpayers actually have to pay more for LMPD off-duty officers to do the duty
Yeah.
that they should be doing.
That's correct. We actually budget $40,000 a year out of our revenues for the expense of security.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, a couple more questions.
Yeah. Mayor, what is the average per household taxes paid to your city?
Anywhere from, we have 676 tax bills that go out, and our income stream from that is about well, it depends on when they pay it. They pay and get the discount, then it's a lot less, but we get an annual revenue stream of about $280,000.
And how many taxpayers?
676 tax bills.
About $414 average.
Right. Not only that, we had to raise our insurance premium tax from 6% to 8% because we got an 8% increase in our waste pickup from our contractor. So luckily, I knew it was coming. I had an idea it was coming. And that's the reason why we went ahead and went through that process, which doesn't make them happy. But again, if we're providing services, we've got to have the funds to actually pay for them.
Mayor, if I can ask another question, are you adjacent to any other city,
Please.
aside from Louisville, aside from the Urban Services District?
Coldstream and Fincastle. What cities are next to you?
Oh, yeah. We're the sister city to Coldstream, and then we have Oakhurst is an HOA, and then there's Fincastle, and that's going towards the Walmart on Chamberlain Lane. We're out close to the Ford plant.
Yes, so have you all talked, you and your nearby cities, have you talked about sharing or contracting for any of these services together?
We're all separate cities.
I understand.
And we did share expense on the Middlesex project because of the fact the Middlesex Drive project was done coming up on 2 years ago. And the logistics of having the paving services, we went and worked with Coldstream to actually combine, because Middlesex runs from Worthington Hills over to Coldstream. So in some cases we do, but in other cases we don't. And in case of the waste pickup, that Coldstream actually bills their residents quarterly for that service. They don't have it included in their property tax.
Okay, well, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you. You all have a blessed evening.
Yeah, Mayor, sorry. Appreciate your question. I mean, your answer to your questions. You mentioned that your revenue streams. I imagine your property tax is your main revenue stream that comes into your budget.
The property tax amounts to, I just did the calculation, our property tax amounts to 42 or 62%.
Okay.
And the
Insurance.
premium tax amounts to about 38.
Okay.
But we have some odds and ends. We get some, not even anything to talk about. You know, you get a little bit of interest in the money in the bank, but we also get some funds from the cable association. But it's not the majority. The majority is our property tax revenue and our insurance premium tax.
And that's pretty typical of all the suburban cities. They have that type of proportion and so forth. And I assume you get the revenues from the road municipal fund as well. You should get road money
We get road funds, but that is strictly for repair and maintenance of the
Right,
streets.
Right, but that's
Right.
another revenue stream,
Right.
even though it's a
I
separate
don't
bucket.
count that because we basically only use that for the street repair.
Right.
And that my important part is the general fund.
Yeah, and just to let you know, part of I think the commission, and I don't want to speak for the chairs or anything, but part of that review is looking at the roads as well and the distribution of that, because suburban cities do receive money from the state and other areas in order to allocate to repair or whatever it might be in terms of roads. So we have to take that in conclusion or into consideration. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear. But thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? All right. Y'all have blessed.
Thank you. Mr. Calvolante, is that right? And
yes.
Mr. Evans, you're on deck.
My main involvement, I'm here to speak tonight about the 67 Police Merit Board in KRS. That's now that they merged into the county, that's no longer an adequate board, the Police Merit Board, to serve what we have here in Jefferson County. It's built mainly for a rural setting where it's not as active, does not have the number of police that we have here. And especially if we're going to lower the standards for to get on the police force, we definitely need to step up. And I think Metro made a good move with creating the Civilian Review and Accountability Board, but that is struggling right now. I think that legislation needs to be brought forward at the state level that's going to take the Police Merit Board duties, the Civilian Review and Accountability Board with the Inspector General's office, and they need subpoena power, and then that needs to be merged into a larger entity that can serve a police department as large as what Louisville is. One thing the DOJ report definitely showed us, they cannot police themselves. And so there has to be an outside entity that's involved to handle the discipline. And if you watch the Police Merit Board meetings and the amount of discipline that goes through there, it cannot be. They spend most of their time trying to sync their calendars instead of doing business of review. One of the main things is hearings. That needs addressed because they do a full-blown practice for a court at the Police Merit Board meetings. And so I think that all needs to be brought together at the state level. The Inspector General needs subpoena power, and LMPD needs to be mandated, FOP. That needs to be worked out in the collective bargaining agreement that they do cooperate with having oversight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Evans, Mr. Neiman, you're on deck.
I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I probably bring a unique point of view to this. I live in an unincorporated area of Jefferson County. My next door neighbor lives in the Urban Services District. And unfortunately, I was around when merger was created, and today we seem further apart as a county than closer together. The competing interests are still arguing over money and whatnot. We don't see a clear vision going forward. Without a clear vision, you can't enact a plan, and you can't get buy-in from the community to create a better community. And it's a shame that we are there because after World War II, Louisville, Atlanta, Indianapolis, and Nashville were all the same size. And today, those three with their merged governments have left us in the dust. And what's going to be called for is bold, visionary, and selfless leadership. At some point, we've got to have it. Don't know if Louisville's up to it. I hope we are. Thank you all very much.
I've got a question for you. Excuse me. Hello?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So you say bring the community together. How would you do that, given the current structure inside the county? What would be your solution to bring things together?
Well, it's going to take leadership from all points of view. It's going to take the political leaders. It's going to take the legal community. It's going to take the health community. It's going to take JCPS, who spends more money than any of the council does.
Yes, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is some of what you've said could be done, if you will, by people agreeing to work together in their separate governmental structures. Are you suggesting that this could be done that way, or are you proposing that there be some restructuring to accomplish this objective?
The first thing we have to do is acknowledge the government is not the be-all and end-all of all the problems. We must, as a group, sit down, assess what the issues are, and then work together. The faith community has a place in it. There are many stakeholders in this operation, and finding where we can cooperate to create a better community. A friend of mine is actually one of those people in Indianapolis, and he said at one point, we all come together, we get out there, we have our arguments, and at the end of the day, we walk out, and the city of Indianapolis is what we're all talking about putting forward. And that's what's needed.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Neiman, you're up, and Michael Schnurley, you're on deck.
Thank you. I'm Ted Neiman, City of Seneca Gardens, resident here, resident of the county also. I don't have a super clear understanding of the Metro tax rate and the Seneca Gardens tax rate and whether or not we're paying both and what the differences are, but I still had some questions that I'd like to get a little insight on, and that is the actual cost of EMS, fire, police protection for Metro residents and what they're paying, and how does that compare to what we're paying. We're having to pay a fee to the county, to the city, to get fire protection, police protection. So I'm interested in getting a little more information, and if somebody can share with me where that information is, I would love to dig into it. Well, also I'm working with our city as an engineer and would like to be able to tap into some of the funding for some basic things like sidewalks within our city. You know, we connect to the city of Louisville or Louisville Metro in a couple of different areas, and we don't have sidewalks all the way through. A lot of people tend to walk through our neighborhood, and it'd be nice to get some help on that. And if there isn't help with that, then is there an opportunity to get some help with grant funding? Metro has picked up a number of grants just recently, and we would like to get some help or assistance in that. We're too small to be able to take care of grant applications ourselves, but would like some assistance from Metro in going after some things like safe streets for sidewalks and getting people in safer positions around traffic. So I think that is just about it for me. So,
Mayor, I have a question for you. Who provides your fire and EMS? Is that St. Matthews Linden?
you know, it's Louisville, but we're paying a fee.
So
Which it seems kind of strange because we're surrounded by Louisville Metro stations.
So when your EMS comes, what's on the truck? It's not Louisville EMS.
Oh, it's probably a well, I don't know. I haven't.
Okay, we'll figure that out.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
it is Louisville Fire Department that showed up. They show up first.
Excuse me, have you asked these questions about taxes, for example? Have you asked that to the government or the mayor of Seneca Gardens?
Yes. Yes, I have. Yeah.
And you didn't get an answer?
Well, it's the timing for this particular meeting is a little bit off, so it was a short notice, or
Okay.
otherwise.
Is it St. Matthews? Is that who provides your fire service? No, City of Louisville. Okay.
Can we get some more information on the fee that's being paid?
Come on up.
Thank you. Yeah, but
This is my first term. My name is Bob Kaufman, and we pay 54. I got a question from a resident the other day. They were looking at our budget that we just passed for the last or for the upcoming fiscal year, and we spend $54,000 on fire, and that's a big chunk of change for a city like our city. You know, we are involved with Strathmore Village, Kingsley, with our own secondary police department. But that's about it, and it's still that's a big chunk of our administration.
So I just want to make sure I understand this. You're not in USD. You're your own city, but you pay a fee to Louisville Metro for fire services.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I think that's what our engineer was saying. The other thing is that Ted didn't bring up. We just got done spending almost $300,000 paving our roads, and we want to know if there's additional funds or grants, like he suggested. That luckily we had the ARPA funds, and we could go into the road funds. But again, that kind of cleans us out for any other improvements.
Well, again, you don't have personnel in the city, I assume you're saying,
No.
who can provide the information on what other funding might be available because of your status as a city.
That's correct.
Whether there's federal funding or anything else or grants from anybody, you don't have the people to determine.
When you're a new mayor, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt. When you're a new mayor, it's very hard to find out what those resources are.
Understood.
You're calling JCLC, KLC, or someone like that. But I'd be willing to bet our last mayor, who was there for 17 years, couldn't tell you what we're paying, what the tax rate is, and if we're getting a discount.
Understood.
I have a question for you. Why do you think it's beneficial to have your city? Why don't you just get rid of it and join Louisville?
Well, I think I inherited this home rule city. I think the residents enjoy having a city like this. It makes them feel like they're maybe different from some of the other cities. We have community events that pertain to our city. I think they like having their own police, their own garbage pickup, and I think when they move in, they want to think that they separate themselves from others.
Thank you. Mr. Schnurley, you're up, and David Andrews is on deck.
Hey, you all. I'm Michael Schnurla. I grew up in Louisville outside the Urban Service District and spent most of my life here. I've done data and mapping and data analysis professionally for about 20 years, and I was the City of Louisville Metro's first Chief Data Officer. I'd like to talk about 3 things that I think you should include when you look at the data that you're analyzing now around people's tax revenue and the cost of the provided services to them. So the first point is look at revenue per person. So if you look at tax revenue by council district or a zip code, any sort of geographic area, you'll see a lot more revenue, for those districts when it's in the suburban or rural areas, actually. But it's a bit of an unfair advantage just to look at that sum. I think you need to consider revenue per person in all of your calculations. So if you do anything with a geography, a zip code, anything like that, you need to look at per person, per voter, per resident. For example, this is some data that's already on open data for the city for occupational license tax in 2021. If you look at, for instance, the 40207 zip code, which is St. Matthews, Indian Hills, Mockingbird Valley, they contribute about $9 million occupational tax. $9 million? Yeah. Occupational license tax, yeah, in 2021.
Are you saying that Indian Hills has occupational tax?
This is the zip code, so whatever that zip code is collecting from the Revenue Commission through the occupational license tax is showing up in that zip code.
Okay, that information could come from people working downtown, but they live in those areas.
Right.
So they're very, very cautious, and I appreciate, because I'm a mapper too by trade, and so I appreciate where you're coming from with all that stuff. I just want to make sure we're clarified. Yeah. But we have, just to let you know, we have looked at on an aggregate level in terms of income as well as per capita, and in basically 3 areas in terms of metro, as well as the suburban area, as well as the suburban cities.
Yeah, I haven't seen you all do a lot of per capita in the slides I've seen. I'd love to see the raw data for that, if you could post it.
I'm still a little confused. Are you saying we've established that is there an occupational tax in that zip code or not? Or are you talking about funds that come into the zip code?
Oh, this is the occupational license tax revenue collected by the Revenue Commission through the occupational license tax from those zip codes. That's how they have broken down that data for this and published it online. So that's really the only data I have access to. But regardless of this particular case, I think it's important to look at per capita in any sort of geographic area with any sort of tax revenue collected. But if you look at the data they've published for this 40207 zip code, it's $9 million. For 40203, which is like Russell, Smoketown, Limerick, and Old Louisville, they only bring in $6 million. So you might think that's like 30% less than the 40207. But if you look at it per person, it actually flips. It's 25% more. St. Matthews is $289 per person occupational license tax, and Smoketown is $361. So I think that's an important note. So number one rule, I think, to consider population density. Number two is revenue per land acre. So for your land use, it's very important. It could be square mile or acre or anything like that. Land and property is so valuable in Louisville or any city. You got to take into consideration land area, do the work to sum up those square miles in the council district and do that math. Land, looking at this way, can tell a very different story. Another example, 40210, which is the west end of Louisville, includes Park Hill in California. It brings in only a quarter of the revenue that 40299 does, which is Jefferson Town and surrounding areas. But 40210 is a much smaller land area, and the revenue per acre there is actually 4 times more than the more rural suburban 40299. So those things really flip when you consider land use. And then the last point is, which has been brought up a few times here, is cost of services per, not just like for an area, but per person. So, why is this important? You look at tax revenue coming in from different parts of the county, but I don't think I've seen analysis yet for talking about the cost of those services like roads, buses, fire, et cetera, per person in certain areas.
30 seconds.
And when you have that less population density and less land development density, those services are going to cost more per person. And how much are we talking about? This is some data I could share, and I'll put this on the website in long form, but if you look at urban versus suburban, roads are 10 times as much per person. Sidewalks are 7 times as much per person. Sewer and water are quadruple, buses are twice as much, and police, fire, and libraries are also like twice as much per person. So very important to consider. And in conclusion, I just want to reiterate, when you look at the data, take into account per capita, per land area, and what are the expenses per person.
Thank you, sir. Look forward to your submission online. You said we're going to put it online. Thank you.
Great.
That's interesting information. Mr. Andrews, and next is Becky Peak.
Sorry, just so you hold it for a second. I want to address your per capita question. No, you can say, I just want to let you know. We, as I mentioned, we did receive some information from the individuals from UK and Louisville that went through and crunched this information. And this was presented to us just to let you know about the per capita income. Urban Services District increased about $1,000 from 2020 from 2000 to 2020, from 27,000 to 28. Suburban cities went from 43,000 up to 46. And then in the unincorporated area, it went from 34, basically it's flat, 34.1 to 34.7. So overall, when you take those 3 entities in there, it's flat at around $33,000, $34,000. To be honest with you, to me, that's not good. And we need to do a whole lot better job in terms of raising the income. We're also seeing some shift of as you know, the population has just significantly increased and shifted over. And as I mentioned before, I'm an aerial mapper by trade, and my company we've been mapping the city, Jefferson County since 1920. And so you can look, if you can imagine dropping a pebble into a lake, and you can see the ripple effect. Well, that's exactly what's happened. You can see a lot of the urban sprawl that's going out to areas, and we've been hearing a lot of conversations about planning and zoning and those issues that's coming up. So I just want to let you know, and I appreciate where you're coming from, and I dwell, a fellow geek, a data geek person, so I do appreciate your comments about that, but I just want to let you know about that.
On your website, that would be great for us to look at. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Firstly, I would just like to ask 2 questions. In particular, can you all commit to, with a yes or no answer, to posting the raw data that you're all using to make the charts and graphs before the end of the public comment period on August 4th?
So, go ahead.
Repeat that again. You want You said the sources of the data or the data itself?
The data itself.
Okay.
Before the end of the comment period, yes or no?
So we're here to listen to you, not to be deposed, but I'll tell you that all the information that we receive will be put onto the website.
Okay, but before the comment period, or is there a schedule for that?
Go ahead and give us your remarks.
Okay. All right. I'm here before the committee today to speak in opposition of the county merger. While I know that Representative Nemes has previously said that these meetings are not to talk about the dissolution of the merger, these committee meetings, I believe it must be discussed. In particular, I think it's important that we view this from a financial standpoint. Right now, we can't cover all of our liabilities in an adequate manner to satisfy our urban, suburban, and semi-rural constituents. No one is happy with the current situation. This is not only my experience. I have canvassed over 17,000 voters in Jefferson County, from Fairdale to Old Louisville, from Algonquin to your home precinct, Representative Nemes. And for the most part, they all agree that the current situation isn't working. Whether it's the fact that we are years behind on our road maintenance network or can't adequately fund our current libraries, we don't have the current funds to cover our liabilities. I ask that the committee please consider and report back that we need a mechanism to be able to dissolve the merger.
Appreciate that. And I want to let you know that the information that we received from Mr. Coombs and his partners that we've hired to do our data for us will be available to the public. If it's not already, it will be immediately. I think it already is on our website. And okay, if it's not, it will be immediately. I thought it's my understanding and Earl's understanding that it is available. It is. So if it's not, let me give you my cell phone number and give me a call. It's 502.
Pardon me.
I've got 3 sons, so don't call after 10. 502-648-8418. So we want all citizens to have access to the information. But I don't think it's in the mix to undo merger. It's to figure out the significant problems which many of which you've identified, which is why I pressed this matter to have this commission put together to study these things. So I understand you want to unmerge. So
I understand that right now it's currently off the table, but I would like to express the sentiment that I think it should be on.
It should be on the table. Okay, but there are significant issues, and I know, especially in my home precinct, where we paying a lot, we're not getting a lot. Okay.
Yep.
I'd like to. You say you're in favor of unmerging merger.
Correct. I believe there should be a mechanism.
And the base on which you make that statement, if I understood you, was that that there isn't enough revenue to cover the needs.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And are you basing your? Do you have an assumption that doing away with merger would increase revenue?
No, not unmerging would increase revenue, but it would allow for a more appropriate use of funds where the money's coming from at a per capita basis would be more equitable if we unmerged rather than. The cost of services just farther out is exponentially higher than it is in the urban services district.
I see. And so, are you assuming then that if there's no merger, that let's say the residents in the unincorporated areas of the county would simply what? Fend for themselves? What government structure would there be to provide any services to them?
county government structures work all the time in other places.
Okay, so you'd want to return to the old structure?
Correct.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I would note that one of the things that our data is showing is that the urban services district is supporting the inside the urban. So I think you're an inside the urban services district guy. I think it's be careful what you ask for, because we're funding a lot more than we're getting in return outside the USD. So we're going to go to Miss Peak, and then we're going to go to Catherine. Yeah, he's inside. Catherine Bogarty. I'm sorry, I can't read your writing. Miss Peak, you're up. I don't think we're going to take. We've decided we're not going to take anything here today.
Mayor Becky, if you will give those to me, I will hold them in case folks want them.
To talk about, so I'll do the best I can. What I did is, I'm Becky Peak, and I'm the mayor for the city of Plantation. I know that you all have an inordinate task. So today I'm hoping to provide you with some information that will help you in the two tasks. One is to review the tax powers and funding of Louisville Metro government and the suburban cities, and to review the distribution and provision of governmental services between Louisville Metro government and the suburban cities. So what I have provided for you is my actual budget. It is the budget for the current year that is just for 11 months. But I wanted to tell you real quickly where my revenues come from and what they total. My property taxes at 26 cents per $100 of value. We budgeted at 148 and we've already collected 160, so we're a little high. We've had a really good year. Our insurance premium taxes, we bring in about $65,000 a year. On our HB 413, we bring in about $4,500 a year. We have a franchise fee that Spectrum pays us, and that brings us in about $6,000 a year. We have a business license fee that we charge, and it brings us in about $6,000 a year. And that's pretty much where our revenues come from. Now, our expenses are general government expenses. It's the kind of expenses you would have if you run a business. It is your salaries, your payroll. We contract for our financial services, so we don't have a treasurer. We contract for those services. We have audits. We have administration. We have rent. We have utilities. We have cleaning, insurance, legal services, tax collection costs, and IT consulting services. So we have all of those listed for you at about a total of $93,000 a year. Let me go back up. My total revenues that we anticipated was $242,300. So $93,900 of those are general expenses that you would have in most businesses. Now we come to public safety. And in public safety, I have off-duty police officer providing us with security at about $13,000 a year. I have a code enforcement officer at about $7,500 a year. I have public lighting that I pay for at $25,000 a year. So if you look at all of that, we're looking at $52,800 out of my budget. Then we have those services that we have to provide, which is garbage, yard waste, and recycling. $68,000 is what it was this year. It's going up to $108,000 next year. Public area maintenance, about $12,000 a year. And that is mostly Westport Road, the frontage on Westport Road. Then we have some community services expense, and that would be website, neighborhood relations. We do a community-wide grant program that tries to help people. It's a citywide City Pride grant. So we give a little bit of encouragement to people to try to keep up their properties. We have newsletter expense and reach alert. So all of those community services are around $13,600. Total is, so it balances out at $242,300. That's pretty much how I spend my money. We do have MRA money that comes in that is dedicated just to roads and sidewalks. And as you know, it's very expensive to do roads and sidewalks. We get in about $16,000 a year, and we've been holding on to $20,500 because we had a grant that was through KYTC, and it was federal money, so I had to put up 20%. So we've been holding on to that, but now we've decided that we're going to use our ARPA money, I think. So, but we've had that money for a while. So in our street expenses, we have signs, we had some major resurfacing, minor resurfacing, and snow removal. What I take my $16,000 or $17,000 every year, and I budget it all in snow removal, because I never know what my snow removal expense is going to be. And then in March, when it's no longer snow time, I can spend money on my streets or somewhere else. But that's how I budget. Now, in Plantation, our tax rate is 26 cents per $100. And my tax bill at face amount last year was $379.
You got 30 seconds.
And 20 cents. Okay. We pay to the Urban Services District, I'm paying about $200 a year. I'm paying $12.40 per $100 of assessed value, so it's roughly $200 just for that. And we don't feel like we're getting any of our money back. So I have all of the tax rates and everything here with me, and hopefully that helps. I was hoping that the numbers would help you all put some perspective to this.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Excuse me, Mayor, we have some questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. You want to ask a question? You ask a question? I have a question. So thank you for that information. What is then the average tax that is paid by a citizen of Plantation?
The average tax to the city of Plantation would be about $380 to $400. And we would be paying to Metro government between $200 and $250.
Okay. Would you repeat those numbers?
Sure. About $380 to $400 in Plantation.
Okay.
And to Metro government, we're paying about $200 to $250 each resident. Now, we're also paying St. Matthews Linden fire tax, which is not in that. That's while it might come on the same bill, it's a separate tax, so I didn't include it that way.
Do I understand that the 200 to 250 is what the residents pay, property tax they pay
To Metro.
To Metro?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, I just want to let the commission know you and I worked together when I was on Metro Council and also as a state rep. I have to say that Mayor Pete is probably one of the best mayors I know in terms of being frugal and constituent services. When she goes through her numbers, she's very, very mindful, and she's got really a lot of innovative programs that helps out the residents within her city. So I just want to take a second and commend you and recognize you for all your efforts and appreciate you're doing. Not to say anything else about other mayors, but you run a great operation, and I appreciate your comment and coming here.
Great, thank you.
Mayor Becky, I have your budget, and I also have Douglas Hill's budget. I can put mine to record, but there's really no reason to, because if you want to see any of our budgets, you can usually go to our city's website. So if you want to see what my budget, I just have that information here for the commission in case they just want to compare numbers.
Okay. Catherine, you're up, and John Bryant, you're on deck.
He's not speaking, I'm speaking. Hello, my name is Catherine Bryan. I'm from the Highlands, 40205. Can you hear me all right? Can you all hear me? Okay. My name is Catherine Bryan. I'm from the Highlands, 40205. I'm a wife, mother, grandmother, and business owner. I have taught on and off for over 20 years and am a very concerned property owner. We live in Jefferson County, and our children were educated in the JCPS system. My topic tonight is increased taxes, and our monies should follow the child. It is extremely hard for teachers to teach in an environment which is not conducive to learning or teaching. Reportedly, last year, there were approximately 16,000 fights, and students are on their phones and being disrespectful to the teachers and themselves. The following are the pre-pandemic scores from the National Assessment of Educational Progress 2019 and 2021. In math, the JCPS scores, the percentages were 25.6%. 25.6% in math, JCPS students. That's for the whites. The blacks were at 5%. Marty Polio just got a raise. Statewide, the whites are at 35%, the blacks are at 11.3%. With stats like these, the only thing this system is preparing our students for is a life of crime and homelessness. So the elephant in the room is asking, why are we throwing taxpayer dollars at a failing system? This is not a financial issue, it's a leadership and management issue. The solution, I say, is no to any tax increases for JCPS. Rather, I propose a tax decrease with a reduction in the administrative staff. I will close by sharing Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed by a lack of knowledge. The lack of knowledge ruins a nation. Thank you and God bless you, and God bless all of you. And thank you for coming to share your opinion and your views on what's going on in our city. I'm also part of a group with folks who are problem solvers. If anyone is interested, please contact me after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Ms. Chesser, you're up, and Ms. Levinson, you're on deck.
Good evening. I'm Linda Chesser. I'm the mayor of Watterson Park. Just going to tell you a little bit about our city, how it came about. The inception of the city was in 1981. Actually, a group of business owners got together, came to some residents, said, we're not getting anything. We're outside the Watterson, nothing happens. We're paid for everything ourselves, plus all the taxes. So they got together. I've been involved with the city myself 33 years. I'll tell you, we are located between Poplar Level Road and Newburgh Road, south of the Watterson out to East Indian Trail. Our median home price is probably about $250,000. We have affordable apartments in our city, a HUD property, and a mobile home park. So we just really can cater to a lot of people. What I think is important is we've never had a city hall. We operate very efficiently. Our tax rate is 5.8 cents per hundred of your real property value. We have a large business base for our city, of the city of our size. We have, we're home to the corporate headquarters of Yum Brands, JCPS headquarters. Bellarmine University has a sports facility in Watterson Park. AST is a baseball, softball training facility. LSA is a soccer training facility. Justin Green he was a former NFL player, opened a facility called Underdog Training, where he helps youth and different people train for different. So I'm kind of bragging on our city more than what we do, and here are the services we offer for that 5.8 cents. We have the 4th lowest tax rate in the state. And we provide trash, recycle, yard waste, semi-annual large trash pickups Every street light in our boundary is paid for by us. We have decorative lights on Gardner Lane. Right now, our lawn crew is spraying the gutters on Gardner Lane and will clean them out because it never happens. So we take care of it. We do road paving, maintain 21 roads that are dedicated to Watterson Park. Snow removal, maintain those roads, do repairs. We take care of mowing certain areas throughout the city. We're one of the 38 cities in Kentucky that are a Tree City USA. We've been a Tree City USA for 20 years plus.
30 seconds.
Okay. Boy, I can never say anything in 30 seconds. Okay. There are a lot of reasons why people call us the hidden gem. We take care of ourselves. We don't rely on Metro. It's never happened, so we just take care of things. We're actually contributing over $100,000 to a sidewalk that's been needed for years on Newburgh Road. And we're waiting, right now, we're working on that and waiting for that to happen. That's going to provide access for a lot of people in that area. It's a great place to live. I've told our councilman Mulvihill a number of times. We have this conversation, and he'll say something about a small city, and I say, we make District 10 look good, and we do.
Thank you,
So-
Mayor. We got a couple questions.
Okay.
Yes, Mayor, did I understand correctly that you say the city was incorporated sometime in the 80s?
I'm sorry.
When did,
Oh, 1981.
so your concerns about not getting adequate services were adequate services from the county, Jefferson County, is that
Right.
correct? Okay.
There were a
thank you.
number, that was when the city and the county were getting ready to merge, was my understanding. I was not involved in it at that time, but business owners came to some of the residents, organized, got a group together, and wanted to form a city. And we've been very successful. We don't even have a city hall,
Yeah,
and we
okay.
make it work.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I appreciate coming in and talking to us and sharing your thoughts. I would assume, just to make sure, that most of your budgets come from property taxes. And I think I looked at a quick sheet, around $350,000 in your total budget. Does that sound about right? If not, if you don't know offhand, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but our total annual budget was about $1 million this year.
Your total annual budget is about $1 million?
Yeah, total annual. And
okay.
we do not charge occupational tax, and we've got all those businesses, no occupational tax.
Okay.
It's strictly the real property, the vehicles, the
Insurance.
insurance. Yeah, we get insurance tax.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
we just operate very efficiently.
And Mayor, what then is the average tax paid by a resident of Watterson Park?
Okay, for your home.
No, just total.
Oh, that's hard to say because we've got property values that vary. 5.8 cents per hundred of property valuation. You know, my tax bill for Watterson Park might be, oh geez, maybe $100. I mean, seriously.
100?
And, yeah, I mean, you just figure the value of the property, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but
I see.
it's 5.8 cents per hundred.
Okay.
And we have lowered it. It started out originally at 16 point something cents per hundred back in 81 or 82. And every opportunity we have to lower it, we do.
Okay. Have you had any, during the time of your existence and before merger passed, by the way, which was in 2001, have you had any occasion between the 80s and 2001 to expand the city, to annex any nearby property?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
One other thing we do, we provide about 130 hours a month of off-duty patrol because the 6th Division, they're understaffed. So we budget about $70,000 a year for public safety.
Is that off-duty LMPD?
Yes.
Thank you.
We work through John Albury's group.
Thank you. Ms. Levinson?
Okay.
And next is, looks like Ms. Westbrook. Jeanette. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having the public comment. I'm here in my personal capacity. I live right near here in Strathmore Manor. We're a very small city within Louisville Metro. I wanted to emphasize some things I think I've been hearing tonight. One thing is that other than Watterson Park, it seems like no area feels that they have enough money, and so I know you're looking into solutions, and perhaps one of the problems here is that there's not enough revenue coming in to cover all the costs in any area of the city. And relatedly, there's been some comments about not being able to find the raw data, but more generally about this being a complicated topic, which it most definitely is, and there needing to be much more education for the community. And it was very hard to know that these hearings were happening. And so I just wanted to present the idea that maybe you would hold off and make some more data available, do some more direct outreach, get some broader input into the process before you make any final decisions about what has or has not worked with merger and what needs to be done. One thing that I've often wondered about, and I don't know the answer to, is do other areas, other metro cities of this size have full-time Metro Council members or part-time Metro Council members? Perhaps if we had full-time Metro Council members, they would be better able to focus on the issues of our city. Then I was curious as to why, meaning no disrespect, but that there's 3 GLI representatives on this committee, but I didn't see anyone from AMPED or other places that deal with development in the city here. And then finally, in my experience, and this again, no offense to any mayors present, but you know, my city is more like a homeowners association. It reminds me of when I lived in a condominium. So perhaps there's something here that you have a lot of not professionally run volunteer mayors involved. So that could be something else in terms of professionalizing Metro Council and just thinking about how can you have more professional, full-time, well-paid people handling the problems of everyone across the city, and it seems like everyone has a lot of complaints. And thank you again for your time.
May I ask a question?
Certainly.
Yes. So I represent the 80 cities. That's one hill I will die on, is for cities and what they give and what they serve their folks. I don't care if you're 100 people. I don't care if you're 29,000. You're still a city with a sovereign, a mayor, and a council. You are correct that most of small cities, and it's throughout Kentucky too, are volunteer. The problem is trying to get civics into these folks. I'm not an advocate for any city to annex or merge into another city unless those 2 cities want to. Has there ever been any talk about your city being so small that, do you have a city that's contiguous to you that you could merge into? Has that ever been a discussion?
We have we're Strathmore Manor,
Village.
we have Strathmore Village, we have Kingsley, and I believe one other, and then we border on actual Louisville Metro. And I know that periodically they may have pooled funds to do something like plow or to shave the sidewalks, not necessarily repave
Right,
them.
we
but-
did that too, yeah.
Right, and so, you know, I think pooling can work. I don't know that it's done consistently. We're not usually plowed.
But interlocal agreements between each city does seem to work rather than dissolving them. And that's the question that's come up from smaller cities. Do you want to annex, or you want to,
Right,
I'm all
well,
for 'em, so.
I don't have a personal feeling, you know, about it one way or the other. Perhaps they could be structured more like condominiums or homeowners associations, people could still have that feeling of, like someone mentioned, they like to live in this little exclusive area, but not really be dependent for things like fire and emergency service and paving and plowing. But my personal view is we just need more equity in the city. People who have so much already should get a third as much, and people who have so little and have been traditionally redlined and historically discriminated against, from my personal opinion, we should give them triple. So that's where I would
Thank
stand.
you. I think the city you were thinking about is Wellington.
Yes,
Yep.
Wellington.
I lived in Wellington for 11 years, so don't leave Wellington out.
I am so sorry to leave
That's
Wellington
all right.
out.
That's all right. Ms. Westbrook, you're up, and then Mr. Wallace, you're on deck.
Good evening. Jeanette Westbrook. I'm on 1827 Edenside Avenue, Louisville, 40204. But I grew up in Middletown. So I've been in that suburban area and then in the urban area. I've been in the urban area since 1974, and I have seen a whole lot of things change. So you all are taxed with looking at what has happened since merger in 2005. What I have seen since merger is the giant sucking sound of resources and money flow out of the city into the suburban areas. Well, here's what I object to. I'm living in the area with the highest taxation in the urban area, and I'm very thankful for my garbage collection, unlike the people in the suburban areas which complain they don't get free garbage pickup. I am happy with the things that I have here, but here's what's changed. We now have to pay for a picnic table to use our public parks. We now have to pay a permit to use public parks. We didn't used to. We now no longer have community centers, swimming pools, and worst of all, we no longer have a social service force here in the urban center, and really all of Jefferson County. And in my opinion, the real issue is that Frankfurt and the legislators there don't want to do due diligence and provide for the necessary resources that we need here in the urban area to function. Law enforcement is complaining they don't have a social service force, which is true. There are no resources. We have nothing to provide to them. Nothing. At the state level, 650 social workers quit because the cleanup ladies are done. The legislature does not want to fund social services. Our mental health facility, 7 counties, has gone belly up twice. Domestic violence shelter, unfunded, almost closed. We have something happening here that is not kosher. We have a war going on between Frankfurt and the Kentucky legislature and what they consider is going on here in the urban government center area. I just call it the city.
30 seconds.
So, I've been the president of 2 neighborhood associations, saved 2 urban schools in here, a 30-year career of social work. Now, the average length of a social worker in Kentucky is 7 years. There's no way 7 years is going to give you the type of experience to deal with the plate that we are now handed. And the Kentucky legislature does not see us as worthy or as needed. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Westbrook. Mr. Wallace, you're up, and Ms. Fisher, you're on deck.
having this review because it's much needed. We have to look at the inputs and outputs. I'm a systems analyst, forensic analyst. One of the issues is finances. The taxes should follow the students and not go to Jefferson County Public Schools. Because what we're looking at is if we train up our children in good civics and to understand common law and to be productive members of society, we're going to have many less or much less ills that are being addressed right now. We should have all tax money currently being sent to Jefferson County Public Schools stopped until they are prosecuted for sexual exploitation of minors, crimes against children, buying obscene pornographic materials in interstate commerce, which is a Class D felony. The school board's name is on the purchase orders in interstate commerce. And for injuring children through their COVID policies and depriving parents' rights by their COVID policies. They gave Marty Polio a $75,000 raise when his performance shows that in many cases, 50% of the students are not at grade level, and they graduated about 85% of those. They have 85% graduation rate, but those are not at grade level. Also, Jefferson County Public Schools gets about $14,000 per student. Private schools are able to outperform JCPS at $9,000 to $10,000 per student. So we're looking at $4,000 extra per 100,000 students in JCPS. Even private schools which specialize with children with disabilities and special needs are outperforming JCPS at $10,000 per year per student. So right now we have taxation without representation. Bobby Holsclaw collects taxes under color of law, using the sheriff to take vehicles and take property for taxes when they through tax liens. The tax money is given to JCPS, and we have no say in that. And they are using it for crimes against children and indoctrinating the children into Marxist, atheistic, and satanic ideology, undermining the Constitution. Jefferson County tax collector Bobby Holsclaw should return all excess taxes to the communities and not give them to Metro to be used as needed. On her when she was running for re-election, she said that she collected $13 million and gave it to Metro. I talked with Mayor Bonnie Young and the treasurer for Douglas Hills, and they received none of that money. So what we're having is we're getting taxed without the benefits, and it's under color of law. Jefferson County Judge Executive Queenie Everett should be investigated for using a private Gmail account for official business and not being accountable for the role of judge executive.
30 seconds, Mr. Wallace.
When you hold a position, she may even be holding two positions. One is judge county executive and also something in Louisville Metro. Louisville Metro needs to evaluate that process. LMPD should be prohibited from monitoring community cameras and prohibited from scanning license plates to track the movement of free men and women in the hope of finding a criminal, as that violates their L1, L2 Code of Ethics in Section 1, 2, 5, 10, 25, 26, and 195 of the Kentucky Constitution. They don't know the Constitution, but their primary job is to protect the constitutional rights of the people.
Okay, so we're going to have to leave it there. If you have more to say, you can submit it online.
Okay, I will.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Fisher, you're up. Mr. Embry, you're on deck.
Hello. Hey. Before I start, is there a timer or clock anywhere?
I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds.
All right.
Start the clock over now.
Okay, sorry. So I have watched several of these public meetings, and obviously the large theme is no one is happy. Everyone has either not received the services that they believe that they should receive, and then or seen the degradation of their existing services. Unfortunately, as it currently is, there's not enough money to provide these services because, one, we do not get back the appropriate amount of money from Frankfurt that we would need to provide them, and Jefferson County is a large territory. That is a lot of space to cover, and it is expensive to maintain that. So we need to look critically at the services we want, the level of services, and the taxes we are willing to pay, and have a more flexible tax structure. Because if you live very far out, it is going to be more expensive to provide those services. And that I didn't see in looking at any of the information if that was complex issue was actually studied, how much each area to provide certain services would be. What is the cost? There seems to be a lot of focus on raw numbers, raw data, and yes, the higher income areas will produce more property taxes, but how far does that money extend when it comes to providing those services? So I would suggest actually doing a comprehensive study of how far the dollar goes to provide certain services in certain areas. Because generally, if you look at just the principles of economy of scale, closer, denser areas, it's usually more cost-effective to provide services in those areas versus outer-lying areas. But once again, I haven't really seen Louisville and Jefferson County study this complex issue. And I refer to them as two separate entities because it feels like this. I couldn't vote in the merger. I was much too young. But one thing I remember before it happening, because I do remember my parents talking about it, is my mom worked downtown. I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up in Douglas Hills, actually. My parents still live there. And I remember my mom, when she would go to work downtown and have visitors, they'd come to her office, she'd always say, people would come to our city and say, gosh, Louisville's so clean. It's just such a nice city, and just comment about how clean the roads are and how we don't have any trash, litter. I have not heard anyone make a comment like that since the early 2000s. So really looking at the level of service we want to provide for our city and what our city wants to look like, as well as discussing with Frankfurt about the funding and how the funding is allocated within the money it sends back to us. Because a lot of major infrastructure projects are done to really transfer people in and out of the city center.
30 seconds.
If you look at all the major public works projects, it has been expressway widening, and that is allocated by Frankfurt and KIPTA. So that money itself has been focused on certain projects that, I don't know, I personally think that is not the greatest waste of money. It sounds like a lot of people around here would maybe like that money focused on surface road maintenance versus massive road widening projects. Maybe that is something that you can take back to your colleagues instead of funding those, to really fund local projects in the urban service districts, in the suburban cities, and in the unincorporated areas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Embry, and then Mr. Coffey.
First thing I want to say is I appreciate all y'all's time. Thank you for being here. I want to tell all the people here I appreciate their time too. My name is Jerry Embry. I'm a current council member for West Buchel. West Buchel has been a city since the 50s. We have our own police department. We have a very good mayor, very good council, and our police department has very quality, high intelligent people. So we're ahead of the game. I feel for the small cities that don't have their own police department. So I'm listening to people say and talk about the merger and a while back. The merger basically had a line, and everything outside the line, services started dropping from the merger. That's why we fought the merger so hard. The other day, just a quick example, I was at the Chick-fil-A, which is right down the road here. And there was a fellow had a sign, was asking for money, which is fine. But it was the woman on the curb behind him with the butcher knife going up and down her arm like this and pointing at every car goes by. So I called 911. And I wasn't really doing anything, so I just, for the heck of it, decided I was going to sit there and see how long it took him to get there. And he never got there. And she did that for the next 45 minutes.
So we don't have enough police coverage. I'm thankful for the police coverage that we have. But all these cities have different problems, different concerns. Why don't the council people for Metro meet with each one of the cities in their area? Why don't they do that? Mr. Mulvihill is ours. He's never been in one of our council meetings, as far as I know. Like, if he did show up, he would know that Beargrass Creek, that's a half a mile below here, is overgrown. I drove over the bridge the other day. I swear I heard Tarzan calling. It's that overgrown. And that's just the way it is. But it's not just being overgrown. It's the 75 to 100 homeless that's hidden down in there while it's overgrown. And that's all coming into our borders. Now, thankfully, we have our own police department, and they can address things like this. But I think the Metro Council should be more in touch with the cities inside the areas that they represent. And that would give a better pulse, a better feel for the needs of the cities, because every city, big, small, middle, industrial, country, suburban, whatever, has different needs. And you can't know what the needs are unless you communicate. And I just want to say I'm thankful for our mayor and our council that we have. And and I'd like to see the police department work better hand in hand with the small police departments across the county, because they're doing yeoman's work. Our police department is very dedicated, and if they work better hand in hand and better communication, it would solve a lot of our problems. Oh, and we need prosecutors that will prosecute. We need prosecutors that will prosecute, and we need teachers that will teach, not indoctrinate. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner, I just wanted to make a comment.
Yes, sir.
I've been blessed, as I mentioned before, to be on a council for about 12 years and now a state representative.
It's an interesting endeavor, isn't it?
It is, and the dynamics are very interesting on both levels. But in any event, some council members do not have any suburban cities. And so, but when I represented the 7th District, I had about 28 suburban cities, and I made a point to meet with them as frequently as possible.
I think that is key. I
want to say that my councilman Scott Reed, he does the same thing, and I know a lot of the council members who do have suburban cities do have newsletters and who do meet with them frequently. But I understand your point is in terms of making sure the open lines and communications are strong and frequent in order to make sure that needs are being addressed.
That is exactly my point.
Yeah, so I do appreciate that.
Yeah, without communication, nothing can get resolved or nothing can move forward. And I think that's key. I truly do.
I wanted to ask, you said that you were opposed to merger
because
you were concerned about services deteriorating. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And then you said indeed that happened.
Oh, in my opinion, the services did deteriorate quite substantially.
Did they deteriorate? What do you attribute that to?
I don't really have a pinpoint as to exactly why that happened. You could say that there's certain areas of the county that seem to have a higher crime rate than other certain areas of the county. The main thing the first thing you notice is the police response, because at one time you had city police and you had county police. And since you had two different entities, it just makes sense. It was just faster because it was our own entity. Just like our own example here in West Butyl, we have our own police department, which we are very thankful for. But there's areas directly around us that don't have that. And without the police presence, unfortunately, those areas around us seem to have a more elevated crime level. And not just that, we have more drug traffic, you see more drug trafficking, more homeless people, substantially more homeless people, and that's probably countywide. So that's just that's my opinion. Some people will argue that opinion. Some people say the merger's a good thing. And I know we're talking about things that happened years ago, but in my opinion, I think it worked better when it was separate. I'm not saying it can't be fixed, but it needs to be addressed to some degree.
Well, Thank you. And one final question for me.
Yes, sir.
And that is, so what is the total taxes paid by the cities, by the citizens of
Well,
West
I tell you
Beach?
what, I learned real quick in our meetings that I'm not the clerk, so I don't throw out numbers that I don't know, because I'm not going to get myself in trouble.
I appreciate it.
Although our mayor is here, and she might know.
I just got a quick question for
Yes,
you.
yes.
Do you feel like that being a city of West Bugel has helped to provide those services? And also my question is, does the city of West Bugel do some things that should be taken care of by Louisville Metro?
That's a good question. We tend to take care of our own. We've been a city since the 50s, so we've been hoeing our own row for a long time, and we're kind of used to that, and we're pretty self-sufficient. I do feel that our basis of government and our police department, I do feel our area is just quite frankly better than the areas that surround us that don't have it, and I feel very fortunate. I don't say we're a model on everything, because we're not. We make mistakes, and we have different things we do, but we try, and we try to communicate well, and we try to talk things out, which I think is what y'all are trying to do, and I think it's, as a whole, that we can make things better by doing that. But there's a difference between talking it and doing it, and sometimes it's a lot of talking it and not much doing it, and we don't do that. We do it. So
Thank you, Mr. Embry.
thank you all very much.
Yes, sir. Mr. Coffey, you're up, and then Alexis Maxwell, you're next. I don't know where.
Good evening. My name is Tom Coffey. I'm a resident of Jeffersontown, and I'm going to express similar opinions that a few of the speakers have presented, and that has to do with the tax dollar following the student. There have been a number of schools that are gradually forming in the city and out throughout the county that are private, that can meet the needs of the parent, the educational desires of the parent. There are other people, though, that don't have that opportunity, where there are single parents and they don't have the income to send their kids to these private schools or homeschool or what have you. And I would like to see the tax dollar that you all collect to follow the student. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Maxwell, you're up. If you're still here, Alexis Maxwell. All right, we still have a little bit of, is this Ms. Maxwell? Thank you. You have the mic.
Today I'm here to talk about the noise pollution and harassment in District 8, District 26, and District 4. I am a graduate alumni from Louisville. It started in District 4, a psychological warfare. Some of the college students was using other students' names, saying that they're here and saying stuff, or mine is speaking to each other. How can I say it? A gateway process. I also used to participate in Metro College program at UPS. They are harassing college students and also starting like in noise pollution in different districts. Some students are placing names on different tags of the college students or family members or friends that are being harassed. I'm asking that Metro police officer do more to protect these innocent students and also family members that's being attacked by this warfare. Some of them some of them are being evicted and also terminated for different jobs. I need to know what can we do to protect these college students and innocent students that are being evicted because the landlord are not accepting payments due to the fact that they are being harassed at work and they getting innocent terminated from their job. I was one of the students. I was fighting for income discrimination, housing discrimination, and I got evicted due to the fact I was being harassed, and also I got terminated from one of my jobs due to the fact they said I was controlling their air.
So, Miss Maxwell, let me say that I think that's not the purview of this commission, but I want to address some of your concerns, if I might. Number one, let me ask: were there any persons that you're referencing that were harassed under the age of 18?
Yes, one of my neighbors.
Okay, I would like for you to tell me offline because we now have an obligation to report that.
Yes, sir.
Under Kentucky state law. So I want to do that, so I'll make the proper reports. You have an obligation as well. Every citizen does. So I want to make sure that I get that name, and then with you, I'll also make my own report of anyone under 18. Secondly, with respect to anybody that's over 18, including yourself, I assume you're over 18?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I think what you need to do, and I will, as offline, I'll give you the contact information, is contact the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And so that commission addresses workplace harassment for various categories. If this isn't one of them, then I can refer you to perhaps the Louisville Bar Association or someone that can help you. But the purview of this commission is not to address workplace harassment or go ahead.
I'm addressing the noise pollution and the harassment in the different districts. What can I do about the harassment and the noise pollution?
So I don't understand those two things to be the same thing. The harassment is a one-on-one harassment, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and then the noise pollution, let's hear about that. I think that's more in line with what we're talking about. And then the harassment, I want to talk to you offline and get you in the right direction. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Similar to the Havana syndrome, invisible noises. There are students that are, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Rape of the Mind book, a psychology book, and The Body Keeps Count. I can tell you more about the situation offline, and also I have evidence. I know one of the students from UPS jumped off the building due to the fact that she was getting terminated and she was getting run out of her mind and she was pregnant. And I believe she lost her job and she didn't have no income, and I think she lost her scholarship as well.
Thank you, and if you can stay around.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to talk to you afterward. Okay, we have a little bit more time if anyone wants to come to the microphone. Hold on, sir. Let me make sure no one hasn't spoken. Okay, second time around, I'll give you a couple minutes, 2 minutes. And Mr. McGraw, are you up? Okay, you go after Bob Stoneham. Mr. Stoneham, you got 2 minutes.
Stoneham. I wanted to correct a couple of things that when it came to the amounts. First off, our tax rate is 0.1688. The annual amount is not 290, but it's 190, which cuts it way down. The road fund that was brought up, we get about $30,000 a year, and that's it. I'm sorry. And we have to continually build.
I'm sorry. What community are you referring to?
Okay, you ask about.
Yeah. What town?
City of Worthington Hills.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. And we keep our road funds growing so that when we do road work in a systematic arrangement, we just got done with a $30,000 project. But the big thing is when I thought about it, the property tax brings in about $190,000. The thing that Louisville needs to do is enforce out-of-state tags and insurance. I can tell you right now, I've been enforcing it in the city of Worthington Hills, and it's made a big difference. I went from 25 out-of-state tags down to about 5. And the reason why I bring this up is these people that are running around with out-of-state tags
20 seconds.
could be criminals, and they could also be running around without insurance at all. And if Louisville wants to make money, they can get this from the insurance premium tax. But they need to enforce it, and it's not being enforced.
Thank you, sir. and I know that we had more time. We're over time, so I don't want to be discourteous to our hosts, but we'll have 2 more speakers. Mr. McGraw, we'll have 3 more speakers. We're going to hold it at 2 minutes. Yes, ma'am. And say your name for the record, please.
My name is Nancy Cavalcante. I'm going to take us in a whole different direction here. First of all, I'm going to thank you all for the work that you're doing, but I'm disappointed in some of the work you've not done. And that's educating the people of this city about what all of this means, because it impacts us tremendously and people don't have any idea. And I want to raise the issue of transparency and accountability. Why are you just now, at the end of a year-long process, asking for community input? That is not valuing the community that you are here to serve. So, Mr. Nemes, while you're looking at this issue of merger and how it's impacted all the people who live in this city, the people aren't even aware that you're doing this because you haven't educated them. You've not taken that responsibility as someone in the legislation to make sure that the community knows the things that you're doing and why we're doing it, and then also not inviting the community into the process. Where's the community at this table? And I don't want to hear that it's through our elected people, because that's a problem for us. We have elected folks who do not represent us and do not speak for us. So I would just encourage you to think about that as you continue your work and as you continue to go back in the state legislature to make decisions now for this city and many people who are not even represented at any of these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me say, if you would, let me say that we've had this discussion in the legislature for 3 years now. We passed it again this year. The reason that we had these meetings toward the end is because we wanted to make sure that the citizens could watch the meetings that we had and to have some of the presentations about the data before we had communications. We talked about that in a public meeting. With respect to representation, I don't know how much better you can do it than what we've done. We've had 3 representatives, 3 senators, 3 council persons, 3 people from Greater Louisville, Inc. We had the cities, the suburban cities are represented, suburban fire is represented, and then the mayor's appointment. So we tried to be as broad as we possibly could. Criticism is obviously available for everything that we do, but that's the effort. We've tried to make it. We've tried to make it inclusive. I would note that most of the people here have been here every time. There's been a number of people who haven't been to any or many. Gerald Neal has been to a number of them, so I'm not including him. But I would suggest that the people on this commission need to take it more seriously as well. But we've tried to be representative as best we can, and I think that's what we tried to do. We're open to criticism, but that's what we tried to do.
Well,
so
I'd ask you to look at yourselves. There's no diversity at this table.
I don't know what diversity, in which way would diversity mean?
Where's the ethnic diversity here?
Where's the ethnic diversity?
Yeah, from our city. Where is that here? I don't see it here.
So we have 4. You're talking about racial diversity. There are 4
Yes.
African Americans that are on this commission out of 15, and so that's I haven't looked at the gender. I hadn't looked at the African American until you just mentioned it. I went through my head who's on the commission. I don't know how many men or women. I think it's probably about 50-50. Okay. We're geographically diverse throughout the city, both including inside the USD and outside the USD. So I think we've done a good job with that. Open to criticism, but I would push back a little bit and say that I think we've done well with those things.
Well, I do think that,
and our co-chairman and myself, obviously,
right.
While friends, not of the same race, don't know why that matters, but we're not.
But I think there's many people in the city who have no idea the work that you're doing. Have no idea, because there's no education in the city about the work that you're doing.
The people in the 33rd do, because I've told them over and over again.
Well, I would challenge, I know many people who don't know anything about this.
Fair
Thank
point.
you.
And help us get the message out, because we do want the citizens to know what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. McGraw, you're up, and then the lady in the back. Mr. McGraw. 2 minutes.
I'll see if I can finish it up even quicker. I hadn't intended to speak, but first off, you've heard a lot from mayors and cities. They have representation in their communities. Just think what a situation the people in the unincorporated part of Jefferson County are having to deal without the services. Mr. Jones, you asked a question earlier, and it's the main thing I wanted to respond to tonight. You asked, how do we pull this thing together? One of the things that I have seen in each of the meetings that I have listened to, have been present, is a lot of confusion, a lot of misunderstanding of what is really supposed to be accomplished through consolidated government. what are the small cities doing, what's the county supposed to be doing, or the metro, and what is the urban services district doing. Last night I started talking about, and ran out of time, the concept that if we can identify very basically what are the services that are to be provided within the urban services district, and we provide the services that all taxpayers are paying for and should be provided throughout the Metro Louisville or Jefferson County, however we want to phrase it, and then we are transparent with those and where the money is coming from, how much money is being spent on those, and break it down to very basic, understandable levels and be transparent but hold accountability. We can eliminate a lot of the confusion. I am of the personal opinion that if the mayor would do so, the small cities are an excellent conduit for him to better educate and work with communities. Maybe we wouldn't need more small cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. All right. I called it off, but we're going to end on this real quickly. You got 2 minutes, and then we're going to break it.
I just also kind of wanted to echo that statement a little bit. This commission, I think this conversation, the few people who do know about it, there is a lot of passion and polarizing feelings, and if I personally am of the opinion, if I have to pay more to give someone more services, I will do that, and I think everyone should be willing to do that. So that's like a conversation we all need to have, and this commission needs to have amongst itself, because right now we don't have the funds to provide all those services within Louisville and Jefferson County. But I want people to feel safe. I want them to have good infrastructure, trash pickup, paving. So if certain areas need to pay more, if I need to pay more, I will be willing to do that, and that's a conversation I think we should have, and that you all should look at, versus just looking at this small pot of money that is not enough. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.